there anything you can do to never let your D&D players get distracted on your table again? We're trying to answer this question considering social encounters, as their pace depends a lot on the player's engagement. In my experience, social encounters many times don't go as well as they could simply because of a lack of engagement and connection of my players with the story. When my players are not able to see how a particular encounter is related to previous or future events in the adventure or campaign, it's much easier for them to pay less attention and get distracted in important moments of the adventure. Considering that, there were two things I did to engage my players in our D&D adventures and make sure they would be more immersed and therefore more naturally inclined to take action. The first one was setting clear encounter roles. The second thing I did was setting clear encounter connections with the story. I see social encounters basically as means to convey information, and that's why it helps me a lot to think what I'm trying to communicate with them. In other words, what's the encounter role? Do I want it to uncover new information, to highlight known information, or to develop known information for the players? Once I have a clear answer for that, I can think how the encounter connects with previous and future events of the story. Of course, the most obvious connection for a social encounter is the adventure itself, but I'm also always trying to build connections with the campaign plots, the campaign world, and the characters' story arcs. When I started to tie all those elements into my social encounters, I saw them coming much more alive. They provide player immersion and make them curious and excited to engage with the story, making their action in our fictitious world much more natural. When I'm building my D&D adventures, I try to keep in mind I'm both creating a cool story and designing a game. From a storytelling viewpoint, it's very important to make sure my social encounters have clear roles and clear connections not only with the adventure, but with our entire campaign. Those elements help to make each scene, each encounter of the adventure more interesting to my players. That's what I do to increase their engagement and connection with our D&D adventures, and that's what helped me to get rid of player distraction in my D&D table. What do you think? Sounds like something that could also work for your social encounters?